One thing you'll notice if you read enough self-help and self-development and prosperity and wealth building books is that you will find common themes that are eerily in a lot of the big ones. It just happens to be the case. And sometimes it's eerie because they definitely didn't hear from each other, and yet they often mention it. Now, not every book in this category mentions it, but it's kind of eerie how it will come up. And this is one of those things that's kind of really weird. And so oftentimes what you'll hear in these books is this sort of weird, eerie, subconscious affirmation thing. Now, do I think you need this to achieve wealth? I don't think so, because there's just as many books and people who didn't use this at all. And there's plenty of wealthy people who did not use this and achieve what they wanted to. And yet I also see a lot of wealthy people who have claimed to use this, and also a lot of people who have used similar stuff. And so what is it? Basically, the general concept is the same, but sometimes the details may vary. But what it is writing down your goals in present tense as if you have already achieved them in as much detail as you can think of, and then reciting them when you wake up and then when you go to sleep. And obviously there's different variations. Grant Cardone, entrepreneur who used to be broke at one point, been in sales for 5 years, broke, transformed his life around, turned his sales around because he stopped taking it as something he hated doing and embraced it and became the best salesperson he could, is now worth $100 million. And he says he still writes out his goals, his monstrous goals. Stuff like, I want to be known by every single person on the planet. And he reads them numerous times throughout the day, every single day, still. And so my goal is to sort of break this down into as much of a logical explanation as to why they work, and as far as the subconscious weird stuff that makes it work, I mean, I will address it, but I'll leave that aside. So that's the general idea behind it. And also there's many books, some of them which have sold millions of copies, who have mentioned this. Napoleon Hill has a variation of this. His book Think and Grow Rich has sold at least 10 million copies. And then there's another book I just found out about by an author I'd never heard of, which is surprised because I mean, I've heard of quite a lot of authors in this industry. And this guy was apparently $50,000 in debt and broke with the family, and he changed that into a very interesting, wealthy life. Obviously, though, I would like to do some more research on him to see what the heck's really going on here. It doesn't say much other than he transformed his life and got rich. But his book on the same sort of topic has sold 3 million copies. So my whole idea behind this from the start when I first heard it was, might as well try it out, It can't hurt me, and there's potential for it to work out. So I've been working on it, and I've occasionally gotten lazy and not done it. But here's my scientific, or at least attempt at logically rationalizing why it works. And a lot of books often mention a lot of stuff about the subconscious and the rewiring of your brain, and a lot of wishy-washy stuff about the law of attraction and the natural laws of nature that you can't deny that will move you towards your goal, which may or may not be true. But here's what I think it does. By reciting them in present tense, as if you've already accomplished them, it rewires your brain into thinking that you've already achieved them, which puts you in a different belief and mindset in a lot of deep ways. Like, for instance, you start believing it's actually possible rather than it's something far off that's a fairy tale. And that's probably one of the first steps you need to start working towards it. You have to believe it's possible. Second thing is repeating it so often, oftentimes aloud, and writing it down rather than just saying in your head. Through experiments, I read in a book, Never Eat Alone, that there's experiments and studies done that writing it down improves the chances of you accomplishing it many times over. As to why, my theory is that because it reminds you constantly when you have to forcibly write it out, and doing it so frequently on a daily basis really realigns you and keeps you on your purpose. If you do it like once a week, you're gonna like lollygag through life. Even once a day, that might not be enough. You'll be distracted by all these things and go off course. TV, Netflix, that new app on your phone. The next thing is, I think there has to be a dose of practicality in all this. Jim Carrey admitted that he had done a lot of this, including similar stuff in visualization. So what this means is you go to some place and visualize that you already had everything. So what Jim would do would be he would drive his car through the mansions of Hollywood when he was broke and trying to make it as an actor, envisioning that he literally was going through he owned one of those mansions and was just going through his neighborhood. And other successful people have done similar things where they've gone to a car dealership and sat in an expensive car pretending it was theirs. Why does it work? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of subconscious things going on there, but I don't think you have to completely attribute it to wishy-washy crazy natural law stuff. I think it can also be attributed to stuff like the fact that if you visualize it and you're sitting there and you're actually believing or tricking your mind into thinking that you already have it, not only does it remind you, but it realigns you towards why you want to achieve it, motivates you to get it, put your goals in mind, and so forth. And what's funny is Jim Carrey, if you guys don't know who he is, you've been living under a rock. He's a very successful comedian now. But Jim Carrey, when he was asked about this, he said, yeah, I did do all this stuff. I also did numerous other stuff. One of the big ones that always comes up, and I've heard this so many times in so many of these types of books, it's this thing where you write a fake check to yourself with a specific number amount. Or like to Jim Carrey, $1 million, and then you put it in your wallet, and it's a little like pretend thing to kind of like pretending that you got it, and somehow that works and it helps your self-conscious. And I don't think it's wishy-washy. I think it can be rationally explained. Some of it's just, I think, more complicated to be fully explained completely, but I feel like it's all this stuff, and man, have I heard it. And there's different variations, like just saying to yourself, I make $100,000 every year, or I am getting a check to pay off my home, or just saying this stuff, I guess in present tense too, or envisioning you have it. Again, it realigns where you want to go, makes you believe you can have it, reminds you to move towards your goals. You subconsciously, because you keep reminding yourself and it keeps being brought up, like heck, it's in your wallet, it also may just like tell you, hey, this is something you want to start planning. And so you might subconsciously and then eventually consciously start planning and setting a path on how to solve it. And then there's all this other stuff, again, it's just theory, it's just my theories. Maybe it has to do with freaking the fact that when you actually rationalize and write down what you want in your goals in life, you start realizing, hey, I don't really want that. Or a lot of people, they just ramble and amble and walk around life just like a dead chicken with their head cut off. Like, they don't really have goals. They think they do, and then their life's a mess because they think they haven't achieved their goals. But then when they finally take a pen and paper and do what's been told and try and write them down, they're like, okay, you know, all this unhappiness. It's like, honestly, I mean, it's because I didn't really have any real goals in my life. I was just like wandering around. So it also helps set goals. Anyhow, I guess the point of this is you can sit here for ages trying to rationalize it, but for me, it's like one of those things where it's like some of the wishy-washy voodoo stuff I don't know about, but heck, the other stuff like visualizing it, fake check, like there's no harm in doing that, and there's all this potential upside. So why don't we try it? Maybe it will help. And so yeah, I hope this video helped. Maybe you can try it out yourself. And I think the last thing I want to end with is the fact that something Jim Carrey said after he was asked about this, and this was that, hey, you it's helpful in visualizing it, but you can't just go off and then eat a sandwich and not work towards your goals. And what he was kind of implying there was that, yeah, visualizing it and working towards it and setting those goals is important in reminding yourself, rewiring your brain to have the right mindsets on these things and put yourself in a position where you really believe and adjust your personality, or I don't know what to call it, your self-image, so that you're in a state where you can receive this, blah blah blah. But long story short, you also have to work towards it. It's not just like you visualize it and then you eat a sandwich and the next day a Ferrari's right outside the house for you. So yeah, it's very interesting, and I'll see you in my next video.